Hey, we're live. I'm Jeff with eBay Addicts, and today my special guest is Ryan from the YouTube channel Galaxy CD Rocks and Flips. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Good, good. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with me today. I appreciate you. I went by and checked out your channel, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago. How was your first of all, introduce yourself to the people if they don't know who you are.
Let me mute that real quick. Yeah. Like I say at the start of my channel, my name's Ryan. I'm a full-time reseller, part-time YouTuber, and podcaster working out of my home here in the greater Cincinnati area. And you can find the show at Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips, either on YouTube or pretty much anywhere you would listen to podcasts. And I'm on Instagram at Galaxy CDs Rocks. And it's just basically a way for me to document my journey as a reseller. I'm not trying to be a guru or any of that kind of stuff. I'm just sharing kind of what I see in reselling and what I'm doing and what's working for me.
Okay, awesome. So how long have you been a reseller? You're a full-time reseller now, correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I didn't even know reselling was a thing until like the summer of 2019, and I stumbled on it watching YouTube videos and started dabbling in it in August of that year. And on September 1st, I gave notice at my full time job that I was going to leave in a month to go do this full time, and I've been doing it ever since. So 18 months, give or take.
So when you got ready to leave your job, did they kind of look at you like, man, this guy's got three heads, and they look at you like you were crazy? Like, wait a minute, you want to quit your job with benefits and health insurance and pension and all this stuff, and to just go be self-employed? Were they like, oh, he'll be back in 6 months? Or what did they say? Were they just like, good luck? Right.
Yeah, there was a lot of that you'll be back, and trying to get me to stay, wait until the spring because obviously I was leaving in October when garage sales are in my area here in Ohio are kind of dying off. So they're like, you should at least wait till spring when things kind of pick back up and whatever. And I was like, no, you know what? I've made my decision. I'm going to go ahead and jump in and do this. And, once everybody kind of was figured out that's what I was actually going to do, people were pretty supportive of it. And I still see a lot of those guys. I do a part-time gig, kind of going back to, I was in car sales. I'd go down there and do dealer trade drives for them, once a week or whatever. So I still see them and always ask and are very supportive of how my business has gone.
Okay, that's good. I bet they were like, oh, he's serious. He really is leaving this time, So I just wanted to say that. Hold on 1 second, okay?
Yep. Hello to everybody I see in the chat there. 3Gen Hustle, welcome. Prison to Profit, Flippin' Sports Guy. I don't think I know you. I've seen the other ones on some of the other channels, but 3Gen, I'm using the camera is a Canon M50, and I'm using their web utility. And then I've got a Shure SM58 running into a Rodecaster Pro. So total overkill, but it does sound really good. I got all that equipment kind of with the idea of doing a podcast, and I wanted it to sound really good. And yeah, I think it's done a really good job. What's up, Lane Shark? Yeah, Jeff, he left. He's having some technical issues. He told me before we got in here, he was all just kind of jacked up this week, had some timing issues and just one thing after another. On the lens, 3Gen, I'm just using the standard kit lens that came with I ordered originally the M50 creator kit that was available last year. So it's just their standard stem. I don't know what it is, a 15 to 45 lens. And it does a pretty good job for this kind of close up stuff. If I was really going to try to do kind of hardcore, video work and really make a living at YouTube, it probably would not be a good enough lens for that. But for this, it's fantastic. Yeah, the mic is the Shure SM58. It's a long standing vocal mic. Came out originally, I think, in the late 60s and is pretty much unchanged since then. But it sounds great and it does a really good job. They also make an SM57, which is essentially the same microphone, but designed more for instruments. You can use that too. They're both about the same price. It's about $100. I think I picked it up on Amazon. in a kit for maybe 110, and it came with the XLR mic cable and all that. So,
Hey, I'm back. Can you hear me?
yes, sir. Welcome
All
back. We're
right.
just having a tech talk over here discussing all the equipment I use.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I'll put you on full screen. So I'm sorry I missed some people in the chat. We got 3Gen Hustle is here. Prison to Profit is here. He says, let's go. And we have the Flippin' Sports guy is here in the chat hanging out with us. We got Land Shark Picker is here hanging out. And I don't know if I've recognized the name. Fallout Pictures. If you want to do pro video, you'll need to set up prime lenses. They're not cheap. So hey guys, thank you guys for coming by and hanging out. So if you guys have questions for our guests, go ahead and drop it in the chat. We were just catching up with Ryan, and I was having an issue with my technical issues, and I had a problem at work. Everything was shut down for Martin Luther King Day on Monday, and it kind of threw me off a little bit. So it's kind of how it goes. So what's been going on with you, man? I was just asking you before the channel started, how many items you had listed, and you said you had, what was it, 6,400 items?
Yeah, it's somewhere. I didn't look today when I was doing listings, but it's somewhere between 6,300 and 6,350 right now. And prior to the holiday, I had bought a couple of huge lots, so I was doing 200 to 250 listings a week. And now that I've kind of worked through those, I'm down to kind of the more normal, 50 to 75 listings a week until I score my next big purchase. So I'll probably stay kind of at that number for a while until I get another big score, because that's about a wash with what I sell.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what are some of the items that you sell, and how do you go about scaling your business to get to the point where you have 6,000 items? I think I'm right around 5,400 items, and I would like to grow to get to 10,000 items on eBay. But as you know, it's what do they say? It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's something that just takes time. It takes a while to grow over time.
Yep. Especially if you're selling some stuff. I mean, if you've got a bunch of stuff that's not selling, it's real easy to get that number up there. But if you're selling, 3, 4, 500 items a month, you obviously have to list, 10, 15, 20% more than that if you want to grow your listings. So the biggest thing for me has just been to find and acquire big lots of merchandise. And I really kind of just stumbled into that. I put up an ad on Craigslist in the fall of 2019 that I was looking for collections of books and whatever. And I had a kid reach out to me, and I ended up buying about 5,500 model railroad magazines and books for, I think I spent $400 on it. And they gave me the number. I didn't even make an offer. The guy was just like, if you'll give me $400 for this stuff, you can just take it all and have it. And the stuff was worth a small fortune. I've probably made $25,000 in sales on that $400 purchase. So
really?
Yeah, it was just fantastic. So that kind of clued me in that if I could find big lots of media cheap like that, I mean, the average cost on that stuff was about 8 cents. You're going to have some duds. You're going to have some stuff that probably doesn't sell that you got to figure out what to do with, but you can buy big lots of books and CDs and movies, and you can get them for literally pennies on the dollar and score some really, really good stuff. And obviously that allows you to grow your store really fast because you've got so much stuff to list. So as long as you've got the room to store it and the time, I'm full time, so this is all I do. I've got the time to sit down here and do 25, 35, 45 listings in a day to get the stuff up there and get it moved. And that's just been a fantastic strategy for me.
Yeah, I have a similar strategy where I sell a lot of media items as well. And if you guys don't know, like if you have the basic store subscription, it's like $21 a month. And if you sell items that are in that select category, like CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, video game, VHS tapes, if you find items that are in that select category, they'll charge you 0 insertion fees. Yep. So you can essentially have 10,000 items in your eBay store, and your monthly store subscription fee would be like $20 a month. It's like $21 a month. So yeah, I tried to do something similar to that. I was actually thinking about shooting a YouTube video next week about, hey, you turn your $600 stimulus check into $10,000, because I had found a big bulk lot of CDs that were new into shrink wrap. It was like 1,000 CDs for like $400, and that includes shipping to your door. So when your buy cost, if your buy cost is 40 cents a piece, and you could turn 40 cents, and let's say you sell each one of them for at least $10 a piece, well, $10 a piece times 1,000, that would be what? $10,000 worth of merchandise, right?
Right.
So you're essentially turning your 40 cents into $10. That's a 25x on your money. So your margin is really big. So when you can do something like that, you can turn $400 into $10,000 worth of merchandise, and then you have free listings, meaning that at the end of the 30 days, if your item doesn't sell, it'll auto relist and you pay 0 insertion fees. To me, I'm like, bro, I'm risking 40 cents. You know, it's like that's that's my all in. That includes shipping to my door. And I found that to be more efficient for me instead of going to a thrift store and I get 5 items at a thrift store. You know what I'm saying? And you can go get items, you know, that you can go buy items in bulk and get 1,000 items, 400 items, 500 items, you know, boom, shipped to your door and cut out a lot of your sourcing time. And you get free, it's free to list it. So I'm just like, bro, where is your risk at? You know, even if the worst case scenario, you turn 40 cents into $10, that's a 25x on your money. So I'm like, bro, I'd much rather do that instead of going to a thrift store and buy an item for $5 and sell it for $50. Right. Anyway, sometimes I get on a rant. So I apologize. We're going to a couple questions in the chat. 3Gen Hustle is here. He says, Ryan, where are you located at?
I'm in the greater Cincinnati area. I actually live in Hamilton, Ohio, which is a little suburb north of Cincinnati. I'm about not quite halfway between Cincinnati and Dayton, which works out really well because that's obviously 2 fairly good sized markets. So there's always estate sales and garage sales, and I can kind of pick two reasonably good sized markets for stuff. So it's worked out really well.
All right, awesome. 3Gen Hustle says, wow, that's a lot of listings. What kind of hours do you put into your business, or as far as the reselling portion of it? He wants to know how many hours you put in, like a day or a week, in your reselling business.
It depends. I've had weeks where I've done 35 hours and I've had weeks where I've done 65. It just kind of depends on what I'm trying to accomplish for the week. When I kind of plan out what I'm going to do in a week, it's much more task oriented. So I want to do 200 listings, or I want to do 75 listings. So what does that look like on a daily basis? And I got to do my shipments and I got to do whatever else needs to get done. So some weeks it's not that bad. And some weeks, you know, if I score a big lot that needs to be sorted and organized, I may spend, 12, 13 hours a day, 3 or 4 days in a row to get that into a condition where it's actually ready to start listing. So it just depends. But on average, probably 45 to 50 hours a week just on the reselling, not the YouTube and the podcast and all the rest of that.
Okay, right. Do you mind sharing with the people and let them know what your sales were for your last 90-day sales? Because I watched one of your YouTube videos recently and you talked about it. Do you want to talk about that today or no?
Yeah, I actually, my Wednesday YouTube episode, every week I kind of go over kind of 10 or 15 key things that I've sold. And then I'm super transparent. People think I'm crazy, but I actually go through a weekly profit and loss statement. So I'll tell you what my gross sales were, what my cost of goods were, what my expenses were for the week, what my net pre-tax profit is for the week. So, catch my Wednesday YouTube episode. It usually goes live at 9 a.m. and you can see what I did for the last 7 days. My 19-day number, or my 90-day number right now on eBay is about 19.5, and it's been kind of in that range for the last couple of months. At Christmas, it got right up to 20,000, and it's now kind of coming back a little bit. But I talk about that a lot in my show, my podcast and whatnot. That number by itself doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. If you're doing 50K at 10% net margin, you're making $5,000. If I'm doing 20K at 50% net margin, I'm making 10 grand. So just seeing that 90-day number is not necessarily indicative of how well or how poorly somebody's business is doing. So that's the only thing I would caution on that. And that's why I'm so transparent in that weekly update.
Yeah, well, the reason why I bring it up, I just wanted to bring it up because I just want people to know that it is a legitimate thing, that you can be a thing, that if you put the work in, you can be a full-time reseller and pay all your bills just with reselling. That's why I bring it up, not because I'm trying to be nosy or anything. I'm just
Right.
bringing it up to let people know that, hey, if you take this seriously and you're willing to put the work in and you want to be a full-time reseller, this is how many hours that he puts in, and this is what kind of sales that you can make, and this could be a viable option if that's something that you want to do. It's got to be something that you enjoy doing. It can't be, well, I'll put 2 hours in this today and now I'm burned out of it and I don't want to list anymore, I don't want to
Right.
source, or I don't want to ship. I would just making it like, hey, if you put the work in, you could grow your business and expand to the point where you could become a full-time reseller. So we had some people in the chat here. I wanted to catch up with them. We had Landshark Picker in the chat. 3Gen Hustle is here. Miss Taffy is here hanging out with us. Hey, Miss Taffy, thank you for coming by. 3Gen Hustle asked a question. He says, Ryan, do you have any type of media background? He wants to know if you like worked in radio or newspapers, or you have any type of background working in media?
In that kind of media, when I was in high school, I did like sports writing and sports photography for the local hometown weekly newspaper. But that's really about it. In media, in terms of if you're talking about like books and movies and music and that, yeah, I managed record stores in the late 80s through the early 90s, and then I owned my own record store from 2000 to 2012. So that kind of media, yeah, I've got a lot of experience with, and that's kind of one of the reasons I probably gravitated towards books and movies and CDs as part of my reselling plan.
All right, awesome. I wanted to say hi to Butterfly Hustles is here in the chat hanging out with me. Hey, Butterfly Hustles. We have the flippin' sports guy is here. We got the Brum reseller is here in the chat hanging out. And we have Landshark Picker here. He says, I wish everyone talked like that as far as making money and as far as, you know, sharing. I think he's talking about like your profit and loss statement and all that. So
yeah, there's
kind of
so many people that, you know, they flex that big pile of sales on Monday on Instagram, and like I said, in isolation, it just doesn't really tell you a whole bunch. I mean, I get it, people feel good about their big stack, but if it's all a bunch of stuff that you didn't make any money on, it's, you know, it doesn't move your business forward. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I try to focus much more of my energy on what you can control, because you can't like really control triggering sales, but you can control how many items you list. You can control, you know, taking good photos. You can control, you know, handling good customer service, what time you ship out. There's a whole list of things that you can control as an eBay seller. And right now I'm trying to put a lot of my energy on listing items, because if you focus on listing items, you're going to make sales, right? So if you focus a lot. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, you have over 6,000 items in your store, and you just know from personal experience, if you focus your energy on listing, you know, having good feedback, you know, taking care of customers have issues, you know, you're going to end up getting repeat customers, and you're going to be able to grow your store. So I try to focus a lot more of my energy on, you know, how can I add value? How can I list more items? Right. And as a result of me listing more items, it's a numbers game. You're going to generate more sales. But I don't want to sit here and say, okay, I need to make $10,000 in sales this month. If I do, great. If not, great. But what can I do? Can I go and sit down and list $800 or $1,000 worth of merchandise today? And if you list $1,000 worth of merchandise at the end of the 30 days, you have what? $30,000 worth of merchandise in your store? Right. Yeah. And so if you just keep restocking the shelves, as I call it, of relisting items, growing your business, just with pure numbers, you're going to make sales. That's part of it, right? Yep. But the idea is we want to.
I talk about that a lot in my videos. If you do the work in the front end, you know, do the listing, and you talked about building value, you know, I'm really a stickler for taking good pictures and taking lots of them. If I put up a book, it almost always has at least 10 pictures, usually all 12 of the free ones that you get. So when you're looking at a listing and you're faced with, you know, 2 books at the same price, and the one guy has like no photo or the stock photo, and then my book for the same money has 12 photos, and you can see the front, the back, the insides, you know exactly what it looks like. Which one is somebody going to buy? So if you do that work up front, you get the result on the back end.
For sure. Yeah. I just talked the other day about, you know, 10 tips to help you generate more sales on eBay. And that was one of them, was take good photos. So We have the Brum reseller says, I'm in the middle of opening up a record store. Well,
That's awesome.
congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Land
that is
Shark
awesome.
Picker says, preach on. Red Dirt Picker is here. He says, hi. So, hey, Red Dirt Picker, thanks for coming by. Butterfly Hustle says, Jeff, how many listings do you have? Well, I have 2 eBay stores. My main eBay store, I think I have right around 5,500. And my second eBay store, I just have 200 items in there because I'm in the process of converting from PayPal to managed payments. And once you switch over to managed payments, that's when you get all your extra free listings. And the 200 is like the most amount of items I can list in that eBay store without having to pay an extra monthly fee, because I didn't want to start having to pay the extra monthly fee on that eBay store until I got my extra 10,000 free listings. So
Yep,
I would say
absolutely.
between the 2 stores, I think I probably have maybe 5,600 items. So like I said, if you just keep chopping at it. It's like you have an axe and you're chopping at a tree in the woods, and pretty soon that tree is going to fall over. So we got 3 Gen Hustle in the chat. He says, you guys recommend buying older media, CDs and cassette tapes? You mentioned some to look out for. Well, me personally, I recommend getting stuff that's new, sealed in the shrink wrap. That's just me personally. So if you're out somewhere, if you see a DVD new in the shrink wrap, VHS tapes, CDs that are new sealed, even audio books, guys. If you walk by and you see an audio book and you see it's still sealed in the shrink wrap and you can get it for 50 cents, 75 cents, and you know you can turn around and sell it for 15, 20 bucks, you have very little risk tied up in that item. And a lot of people will walk right by it at a thrift store or a garage sale. It's in abundance. So you just have to think about things like older media that they're not making anymore. Some of the ones that you never heard of are the ones that's worth money because they're not making them anymore. It's kind of rare off the wall thing, right? So people can't find it and it's not as prevalent, and yours is new in the shrink wrap. You just wait for the right buyer to come along. You got, 40, 50 cents, 75 cents tied up in that item. You're not in an urgent to sell that item. But I'll let Ryan talk to that because he sells a lot of media as well. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Ryan.
no, I was going to say, I totally agree with that. If you've never heard of it, it's probably something that you want to at least look up. The weirder, the more obscure, whether it's a movie, a book, a band, those are the ones that will command the most money because those are the ones that are harder to find. They were on, a small label. You got some I've sold several old kind of like regional hip hop, Southern gangsta stuff that I found in a big lot that went for hundreds of dollars that I've got, 3.5 cents in. So looking for those more obscure titles is the way to go. Probably the easier advice is to not try to spend a bunch of money on the things you've already heard of. So the real popular, Tom Clancy books or, Nickelback CDs, the stuff that's really, really common. It's almost counterintuitive. When I had my record store, I had a guy come in and he wanted to sell me a copy of Michael Jackson's Thriller on vinyl. And he's like, man, this is the best selling album ever. It should be worth a lot of money. And I was like, it's actually not, because it was the best selling album ever. Everybody's already got one. Unfortunately, it's all but worthless. So look for the more obscure stuff. And like I said, if you haven't heard of it, look up the comps and see what it might be worth. That's where you'll score some wins. I think we lost him again. Oh, there he is.
Right here. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. It's a lot of stuff going on today. But yeah, what he's saying is like if something like Michael Jackson and they made millions of copies of it, right? There's millions of copies of it available. But if it's something weird and obscure and it's something that you've never heard of before, there's less competition and you can charge a premium for these items. So let's say, for example, I have a CD. Like I bought a bunch of big lots of CDs recently, right? And if I'm the only one on eBay that has it, maybe it would have only sold for $10, but now I'm the only person on eBay that has it. Now maybe I can charge a premium for that item, and maybe I can charge 20, 25, 30 bucks for that same item that it would have ordinarily only sold for maybe 10 bucks because you have less competition. And so if there's all these millions of users on the platform and they're looking for that one specific item, you have it new in the shrink wrap. They're not making it anymore. It's about the supply and demand. The supply is low, demand is high. Maybe you're only 1 or 2 people that have it on the platform. And sometimes maybe you'll find somebody that has it, but they have it like a used copy and yours is new. So maybe they have theirs selling for $14.99. Yours is new, and now maybe yours is going to sell for $25 plus shipping. It's just because it's all about the supply and demand of that item. And like I said, the one that's weird and obscure items that you've never seen or heard of before, or you're just like, I don't know what this is, you can take time to scan it. But a lot of times, if it's a quarter or 50 cents, I just put it in the cart and look it up later, just because I know at a bare minimum, okay, if you spend 50 cents on that item and it sells for $10, that's still going to be a 20x on your money, right? So you can sit there and scan all the barcodes and take time out of your day to do that. I just scan it when I get home and list it, because I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to do a high velocity store, high volume. I'm not trying to just have 500 items in my store. So if I'm like here and I'm like, hey, I see certain items, and also you can buy stuff in bulk and get a better deal and put stuff like in a big lot. So if you're out at a yard sale or something, put stuff like in a big lot. Maybe it's not something that you want per se, but you're going to get a better deal because all this stuff is like in a big lot. So
I was just going to say that's something that I really focus on, especially if I'm out at an estate sale. You had Romer the Romer on yesterday, and he was talking about, he goes to a sale and he scans every book and he cherry picks the ones that are the most valuable. And I kind of do the opposite. I go in and I just kind of visually scan the thing and I say, there's probably 100 books here I'd really like to have, but I can create value for that estate seller by saying, you got 200 books here. I'll buy all of them and make them a ridiculous offer. And most of the time they'll take it, because now they don't have to deal with all those books. They don't have to haul them away at the end of the sale, take them to Goodwill, take them to the dump, whatever. I'll pack them, I'll haul them. You don't have to do anything. Here's $50 for 200 books for you to do it. And they almost always say yes. And you end up with a bunch of stuff that's really, really good for next to nothing.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, is sometimes when you buy stuff in bulk, you're buying items that you don't necessarily want. It's not home run items, but you're getting the stuff in such a big bulk items, and you're paying so little per item. Like Ryan says, he has 8 cents tied up in it, and if it's something where you're going to get free listings anyways, what is the risk of listing it? Because you're not going to be charged an insertion fee to list it. And if you bought an item for 50 cents and at a bare minimum it sells for $10, worst case scenario, you're going to get a 20x on your money. That's worst case scenario. So that's just the way I look at it. Everybody does their own business model differently. But I wanted to say hi to some people in the chat. Steve is here from Resell Dojo. He's here hanging out with us. So thanks for coming by and hanging out. We got 3Gen Hustle is here. Landshark Picker is here. We have Mo here from the reseller niche. Mo. Hey, Mo, thanks for coming by. We appreciate you. A Pug, I don't know if I pronounced your name properly, he says, how do you search buy a seller on eBay, on my phone, on eBay app? I don't know exactly what he means, if you're trying to search for an individual seller or if you're trying to look up sold comps. I don't know exactly what he means there. Landshark Picker asks a question. He wants to know, do you use promoted listings?
I do not. Primarily because the stuff I'm selling, by and large, it's either super cheap to begin with, or I've got one of only a handful. So I don't see the need for what I'm selling to use promoted listings in either of those cases. Now, I do run markdown sales almost every month on older aged inventory, where I'll throw a bunch of stuff out there for 10, 20, 30, whatever % off. Right now, I think I've got some stuff that's really, really old that I'm running 50% off, just to try to turn it into some money and get it blown out. But no, I don't use promoted listings. I know a lot of folks do and have a lot of success with them, but it's just not something that I've used. It just doesn't seem like it fits my business model.
Okay, cool. This overstuffed house says, I am amazed at how many book sellers do not show the spine of the pics of the vintage books. Yeah, I'm not really big into selling books, but yeah, if somebody's looking for a particular book and they can't see the spine and see the condition of it, then they're going to be either asking questions to say, can you send me more photos of the item? And it's just going to be more time consuming, because then you got to go back in your inventory again and find that item. Sometimes I get in a hurry listing items, and I'll take like a photo, like maybe the front of a DVD or a CD, and then I forgot to take a photo of the back. And then people are like, hey, can you take me a photo of the front and back of this item? And then I got to go back into my inventory and find it just to send them another photo. When if I took an extra 2 minutes out of my day to, to go ahead and take better photos, I would have saved myself, some time in the long run,
Yep. And that goes back to what I talked about a little bit earlier about doing that work up front. It saves you all that drama later when somebody wants to see all that stuff because it's already on there. And it goes back to having some kind of process. You know, I do all my books exactly the same way. I do all my CDs exactly the same way. So I've got a system in place so that I don't miss stuff like that. So it's really rare. I had somebody that reached out over the weekend that wanted specific measurements on a book. They wanted to know how tall it was and how wide it was. That's not something I usually put in a listing, but it's almost never happened where somebody asked for more pictures of something. If you take 8, 10, 12 pictures and you've got the front, the back, the spine, you know, the copyright date page and some sample pages of what the book looks like, you're almost never going to get requests for more pictures.
All right, awesome. So I wanted to say hi to the Flippin' Sports guy. He said Resell Dojo. He says it really does. I grabbed some DVDs this weekend I would never have thought of. So yeah, I mean, it just looking for merchandise that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. I like media items because the media shipping for everything under a pound is like $2.80, and it's not very difficult to ship. I just drop it in a 6x9 padded envelope, and then I'm good. You know.
Yep.
So it doesn't take up a lot of space either. So there's a lot of good things. I want to say hi
other
to
than what happened to us at Christmas time. Media mail, I know a lot of folks complain that it's super slow, but I have not had that experience other than during the Christmas season when everything was slow. I've got stuff that literally gets from here in Ohio to California in sometimes 3 or 4 days, media mail. So I just don't find that it's worth the extra expense to bump it up to first class. Now, if it's a really expensive item, you know, I'm going to send it priority and insure it and all that kind of stuff. But for your average run of the mill $10 or $15 book or CD, that bad boy's going in a bubble mailer and getting sent media rate.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And the shipping is not very expensive, and usually you can get a lot of items that doesn't take up a ton of space. So all of that stuff, you know, adds up. And then, like I said, plus your barrier to entry to buy the item is relatively cheap as well. I wanted to say hi to the Baldy Pal Picking. He says, I just realized that doesn't work either. Sorry. So thanks for hanging out. We got the Thrifty Pickers is here. He says, what's going on, guys? It's great to see you all. Hope you're doing well. Hey, great to see you too. I'm glad you came by to hang out. Pog says, what if I wanted to buy it from your store? How do I search it? Are you talking about my store or Galaxy CD Rocks? My eBay stores, if you go to the About Me section, I have both my eBay stores are listed there. You can just click on the link, and it'll show you guys everything that I have listed in my eBay store. So I don't know about Ryan. Do you have your eBay store listed publicly or no?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the chat there. I should take you to it. If you just search for Galaxy CDs Rocks, it should come up. It's on my YouTube and all that as well, but there's a link now in the chat for you. I appreciate it. All right. Go check it out. I got a lot of stuff there I'd like to get rid of.
I bet so. So, Ryan, I wanted to get into your backstory a little bit. What were you doing before you became a full-time reseller? Because I think you said you had like 30 years experience working in retail. Can you talk a little bit about your backstory, about what you were doing before you became a full-time reseller, and what got you interested in being a reseller? I mean, were you just like channel surfing on YouTube and it'd be like, hey, I think I can do that. Let's try that out, you know?
Yep. I was already kind of looking for whatever the next chapter was going to be. And I was just watching YouTube videos one night, and I've watched Gary Vaynerchuk, just his speaking and, you know, his motivational stuff. And one of his like trash to cash videos came up, and I'm like, man, that looks really interesting. This guy's like a multimillionaire, and he's out running around with his buddies buying Hot Wheels and just stuff at garage sales and flipping some of it for just crazy money. So that led me down kind of the YouTube rabbit hole, and I found you know, Lonnie at Shed Flips and Cincinnati Picker. And I found this whole reselling community that, like I said, I had no idea any of this even existed. And so I did what most people do. I looked around the house at stuff that I hadn't touched in months or years. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to throw this on eBay and see what happens. And immediately started selling stuff and making money. I hit a couple garage sales, did pretty well with that stuff. And one thing led to another. And here I am. As far as my other background, I started in retail in college way back in the 80s. And once you're in retail, you kind of just get sucked in and stuck. and I kept getting promoted and just kind of made a career of it. So I worked for what is now Macy's as a sales manager. I worked for Best Buy as a sales manager and a store manager. I've worked for Office Max as a general manager. So I've done a lot of kind of traditional retail. My first break from that was back in 2000 when I opened my own record store. I'd had enough of working for someone else. So I decided I had some stock options I could cash out and some money set aside. So I just went for it and opened a record store back in 2000. I did that for about 12 years. If I could have hung on for a couple of more years and caught like the vinyl, wave that hit in about 2015, I'd probably still have that store. That was my dream job, but it just wasn't financially viable anymore. So then I went into selling cars, which is kind of exactly what you would think it would be. The money is really good, but it's a really kind of high stress, long hours type job. And that's what I was doing prior to getting into reselling.
Right. So I got a couple questions for you. How was it like owning this record store? Was business busy? Was it slow? Because I've never actually owned a brick and mortar store. Can you kind of take us behind the curtain and tell us how that went? And did you enjoy it? Did you like dealing with customers, or was it like a pain in the butt? Did you have like issues with it, like as far as hiring and firing employees and dealing with all the stuff that goes along with having a brick and mortar store? Can you tell us how that went?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I've always been a huge music nut. Like I said, I had managed some record stores prior, back in the 80s and early 90s, and it was kind of always my dream to own one. So, and dealing with the customers, it wasn't, you're hanging out. I actually had a couch in the store, and people would just come in and hang out, and we'd just talk about music and movies and pop culture all day long. It was fantastic. I had enough business experience from being in kind of corporate retail all those years that I knew how to take care of, setting up a commercial lease and, finding suppliers and doing all that kind of stuff. So it was really a fairly seamless process to get all that up and running. It was kind of the same thing. I decided one day that I was going to do it, and within 6 months, the store was open and running. And it was another one of those cases where everybody thought I was nuts, and it far exceeded my wildest expectations for about the first 10 years. And then you got into the 2008, the economy kind of started to crap out a little bit, and people's music listening habits changed quite a bit during that area. You had, Spotify and Pandora and all those services that were coming to the US, and it just became so convenient to listen to music on your phone as opposed to going to the record store and spending $10, $15, $18 on something. And like I said, that was prior to the resurgence of vinyl. So it was just kind of a timing thing for me. It was, like I said, if it had survived, I would still absolutely be doing it. It was a blast.
Yeah, man. When I was a kid and I was younger, there used to be a little hangout spot when I was growing up, and it was called the Book and Music Exchange. And they had CDs and DVDs and video games, and I don't think Blu-rays were a thing back then, but they had all these different things that you could go buy and hang out. And we would go there after school, and they would let you hang out and play video games, and you could listen to music and just kind of chill and hang out. And of course, if you wanted to buy stuff, you can buy it. And so I always wanted to have something similar to that. And I got to an adult, and then I started looking around, and I was like, man, I started doing the math, and I'm like, okay, well, how much is it going to be for the overhead to rent the space? Right. How much is the water and the electric? How much am I going to have to pay the employees? What if an employee calls in sick and doesn't show up to work? And then I was like, you know what? Let's just see if I can recreate that and have a similar experience on eBay. And if someone wants to buy or sell something, I can cut out the middleman, cut out a lot of the overhead, cut out. Absolutely. That way I'm not paying $1,500 a month to rent a space. You don't have a bunch of employees. You don't have to worry about your items getting stolen or broken or coming up missing. It's just you kind of running the show behind the scenes. And so that's why I brought it up, because I thought it was really interesting that you were able to be like, hey, you know what? I think I'm just going to open up a record store and then do it, because there's a lot of people who talk about starting a business, but not a lot of people do it. They're just like, oh yeah, in 10 years from now, I'm going to open up a business, but then 10 years never comes, So
I
I
just
just
had that
admire.
conversation actually with somebody earlier today that's thinking about leaving their permanent job to do something on their own. And the advice I had for him was, if you're already having that conversation with yourself, you know what you want to do. If you're waiting to be ready, it's kind of like deciding to have a kid. If you wait until you're ready, you're just never going to do it. You've almost just got to say, you know what, I'm going to do it and jump. And I've done it twice with whatever level of success. I'm happy with it. I don't know what other people might think about it, but I've been thrilled with how it's worked out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just one of those things, man. Life is short. I'm 36 right now, and it seemed like just yesterday I was 26. So the more that you procrastinate and put stuff off and say, "Oh, I'll do it next year" or "I'll do it later," like later never comes. You just have to be like, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to figure it out along the way." It's like, have you ever done it before? No. It's like, have you ever started a YouTube channel before? No. Do you know anything about it? No. I'm going to figure it out. Have you ever done a podcast before? No. But I'm going to figure it out. It's like you just have to jump in and do it. And it's like you jump out of the airplane and you figure out how to open up the parachute on the way down. You're either going to sink or swim. That's the kind of that's kind of the mentality you have to have. And if you screw up and you mess up, you don't have any regrets. You gave it the best shot you had. You're not going home and having regrets and saying, man, what if I would have started that record store? What if I would have started that podcast or that YouTube channel? You just jump in with both feet and figure it out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you put forth the massive energy and massive effort to try to make it work, So
I never wanted to look back and say, man, I wish I had tried that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The Brum reseller, he says, I got a couch for my store.
Yeah,
He's talking about opening up a. Yeah. So
I'll be out walking around here in town and I'll run into people that used to hang out in the store and they'll ask about whatever happened to that couch. It's just, it's amazing. That will be, if you do it right, that your store will become a community center. I mean, it'll be a place where people know they can come, especially the kids, where they know they've got a safe space to come and just kind of be themselves and hang out and listen to music and talk about the stuff that they can't talk about at home or whatever it is. And it'll be something that they'll remember literally forever. I mean, I closed it, like I said, in 2012. So it's coming up on 10 years now. And literally probably once or twice a month, I'll run into somebody that says, man, I remember hanging out in your store and I really appreciate that you gave us that safe space and the place where we could all congregate and chill. It was so awesome. And that means more to me than the money, than the success of the business, any of that. To know that though I reached those people and gave them that it's amazing.
Yeah, it's almost like having like a little barbershop hangout spot where people would just hang out and talk and congregate and they just, enjoy each other's company. And it just, it's something that you can do. It's almost like a social event, but instead of going to a bar or a restaurant, they just come to your store and hang out and talk. And, if they want to buy something, they can buy something. And I'm sure you probably had like little snacks or sodas or something, that you sold on the side as well. So we got Thrifting After Work is here.
Coolers and the whole 9 yards. I mean, it was, we did art shows for local artists. We started hosting live bands in the store. I mean, there's so much opportunity to grow a community like that, assuming you've got the space. It's just, the sky's the limit, really. I see Thrifting After Work there, talking about Amoeba in LA.
So,
I never
Ryan,
got
give
there,
me some considering being a full-time reseller.
What's
Can
that?
you hear me? Or are we breaking up? I said, can you give me some tips, like 3 or 4 tips? Ryan, are you there?
Yeah. I guess the first one would be if you think you want to do it, like we just talked about, just jump in and start. You can start with the stuff you've got at home. You don't have to order a pallet of merchandise and, any of that kind of stuff to do it. It just get started with the stuff around the house and learn whether you like the process or not, and whether you're any good at lifting and taking pictures, and kind of learn without investing any money. And then you can make the decision whether you want to scale and grow the business and maybe eventually do it full time. I talk about a lot on my channel, kind of beginning with the end in mind, knowing what you want. If you just want to save up enough money to go on vacation or pay off student debt or whatever it is, knowing what that end point is allows you to start setting goals and creating a plan to help you, kind of navigate your way to that. So that would be my other, kind of big advice is know where it is you want to go, so that you can plan your business accordingly and your time and all the rest of that. Because if you don't know that, you're just scattershot picking stuff up and trying stuff, and you can't succeed that way, I don't believe.
Yeah, I'm listening. So you said start with the end in mind. Like if you have a goal and you say, hey, I want to do this to pay for a vacation, or if I'm trying to pay off student loan debt, or whatever it is that you're using the vehicle for, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to have goals and know where you're going in order to get there. Otherwise, you're just aimlessly walking around, and you can't grow your business. You can't plan what kind of things you want to buy, what kind of margins you need to make. You can't. It's not manageable if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish.
Right. So,
kind of keeping in line with that would be, once you've done all that, kind of stay in your own lane. By that, I mean, don't get caught up in that trap of comparing yourself to others. You know what success looks like for you, whether it's, paying off the student loan or becoming full-time or, buying a new car, whatever that plan is. Once you've decided that, don't get distracted by outside forces and, somebody else's YouTube channel or their 90-day sale flex on Instagram or any of that kind of stuff. Stay focused on, what you're doing and the plan that you have for your business. And I talk about this all the time, define your own success and then measure your results against that, not what somebody else is doing. I think that's really, really important. With all the social media today, it is so easy to get caught up in outside influences and what other people are doing that you lose sight of what you're trying to accomplish. And it's dangerous for you personally. And it's certainly dangerous for your business, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. I kind of feel like once you find something that works, and let's say whatever it is, if your thing is selling blue jeans, if your thing is selling media, if you like selling video games, and that's your niche, kind of stick to your niche in that market. Once you become an expert in that niche, is going to give you a competitive advantage over the other sellers that's just selling a little bit of everything. So if your area is like, hey, I really love video games. I know so much about video games that when I go into a thrift store, I know this video game's worth $50 and they're selling it for $1.50. I don't even need to take my phone out to scan the barcode. Like if that's your niche and that's what you love to doing and it's something that you enjoy selling, then kind of stick to that niche. And once you master that niche or that market of video games, maybe expand to something else. Say, okay, I'm really doing well with video games. Now let's see, I'm going to try to sell DVDs, or maybe I'm doing really well selling, blue jeans. Now I want to sell blue jeans and tennis shoes, and so kind of, because there's so many different markets of things that you can sell. Like, man, I'm just going to sell anything I can make a profit on. Well, you haven't really mastered that particular niche. You're just almost running in circles, and also you kind of have to, the biggest thing that I realized the other day, I was talking to another reseller and he was saying, Jeff, he was like, listen, man, if you want to grow your store and grow your sales, you just have to spend more money. And I was like, oh, because I kept thinking, he's like, you can't spend the same $500 or the same $1,000 on inventory every single month and you'd get the same results every month and want to know why your business isn't growing, because you're spending that same $500 over and over and over again. So it's like, how can your business grow? It's like you're running around like a dog chasing your tail, spending the same $500 on buying inventory and wanting to know why your sales are the same month after month after month. Well, you haven't done anything different. You haven't stuck your neck out there to try to grow. You don't have to buy big pallets of merchandise and spend thousands of dollars, but you haven't upped your game to say, okay, I was spending 500, now I'm going to spend 550 or 600 this month. So you're just gradually taking baby steps. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And like we talked about, kind of at the beginning of this with the listings, if you're selling 100 things a month and you want to grow your store, you've got to list more than 100 things in that month to grow that number. Otherwise, you're stuck at the same point, and you'll just continue to generate the same kind of sales unless you make like a big change in the merchandise that you're trying to sell. So to keep growing, you've got to keep adding more listings and more SKUs to your assortment. And then the thing will just naturally, you're going to start generating more income, which you can then reinvest in the business to buy more stuff. And it just kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You can just kind of ride along with it. But yeah, you got to take those first steps and start stepping out.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi to Joey Bada Bing is in the chat hanging out with me, man. I missed your live listing last night because I was working, but I did stop by and try to give you a thumbs up and show support. And I wanted to say hi to Thrifting After Work is here in the house hanging out with us. And I wanted to say hi to the Reselling Dojo. So, hey, we were talking a little bit about having goals. What are some of the goals that you set for yourself this year in 2021? Is there any of them that you are willing to share with my audience and let them know, like, hey, here's 3 or 4 or 5 things that I don't like to even call them goals. I almost like to call them of projects of things that I'm working on. Goals sounds like it's some far off distant land that you're never going to get to. You know, I always think about what are some projects that I'm working on that I'm heading in that direction. Do you have a couple of that you would like to talk about?
Well, kind of like we talked
Ryan?
about, your goal is to try to get to 10,000 listings. That's kind of where I'm shooting for, somewhere between 8 and 10,000 by year end. I don't see any reason why that's not possible. I'm trying to add some additional revenue streams. I just did a video last week. I opened a booth in one of the local antique malls to allow me to, you buy these big lots, and certainly there's some stuff in there that it's just not worth messing with on eBay, but you can throw it in an antique booth for a couple of bucks, maybe sell it, make a little money on it, get it out of your storage, get it out of your room, get it out of your garage, whatever it is. So that's was part of my 2021 plan. And I again, like I do in a lot of cases, I just kind of jumped in. I went to the antique mall and said, hey, what's it cost for a booth? They gave me a number. It was kind of in line with what I expected to just throw everything in a storage unit. So I just went ahead and opened an antique booth. So that's been open about 2 weeks. I don't expect that it's going to do eBay kind of money, but if it did, $300-$400 a month on what the rent costs over there, that would be golden for me. I'd be thrilled to have that stuff be productive. So probably the other thing would be hopefully to continue to grow the YouTube channel and the podcast. I'd like, I'm at 420 odd subscribers. I'd really like to get to the point where my channel is monetized at some point. So if you're watching, go subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Again, with the idea in mind that, I'd like to share what's going on in my business with the community, because the community was so helpful for me when I got started. And B, just to generate a little bit of another income stream to help me get to where my kind of longer term financial goals are. So that would kind of be the big stuff for 2021. I said in one of my videos earlier, I'm not a big New Year's resolution kind of guy. So I didn't have anything kind of in mind. I've always got, as I go through a year, kind of projects or things I want to accomplish, things I want to grow. So there's always something cooking. But that's kind of, if I was going to name 3 for this year, that would be them.
Yeah, for sure. I think I saw your video or caught a video the other day when you were talking about, instead of paying for a storage unit or a storage locker to store your eBay merchandise, that you decided to open up that antique booth. Can you talk a little bit about how that is, if someone was interested in opening up an antique booth, what the process is, and do you think that you're going to be able to make some money from the antique booth? Like, how much would they normally charge you a month if someone wanted to open up an antique booth to sell their items there?
Right. I'm sure it varies wildly by market. In my area, I was able to rent an 8x12 booth for $170 a month. And I compared that to a 10x10 storage unit, which was roughly about $85 a month. So for twice the money, I could get, give or take, about the same size space. And I have an opportunity to sell all the merchandise I put in there. Whereas if I just put it in a storage unit, this is all stuff that I'm not listing on eBay. This is all kind of the sub $8 stuff that's just not worth the time to list on eBay. So if I can get it out of my kind of workspace here so that I have room to work the next lot of books and maybe generate a little money off of it, that's a win for me. What it ends up being in your area, I can't really say. They do charge, I think the commission is like 7%. So 170 a month plus 7% of sales. If I make $85 or $90 a month over there, that essentially washes out what it was going to cost me to just put the stuff in a storage unit anyway. So why not give it a shot? So I think just based on what I've seen from the first 2 weeks, again, not going to get rich doing it, but I think there's hundreds of dollars potential a month there of extra revenue for stuff that really was essentially dead inventory for me. So that's a win.
So you're saying worst case scenario, you should make enough sales to offset the money that you cost for the booth. So that way, at least you don't have to pay for a storage unit to store your merchandise is what you're saying. And if you make a couple $100 a month, that wouldn't be too bad either, right?
Oh yeah, no, that would be ideal. But like I said, the goal was for me to get all this dead inventory out of my work area so that I could work on the next batch of stuff. And I could take it somewhere and just donate it or just get rid of it. But if I can take it over there and squeeze a little bit of money out of it, and this is mostly stuff I own for less than 50 cents. So I can put it over there for 99 cents, $1.99, $2.99, and still generate some money out of it. That's a huge win for me if it works. We'll find out. Stay tuned.
Okay, awesome. I wanted to say hi to Cali Reseller Lewis. The Thrifty Pickers is here. Thrifting After Work is here. The Thrifty Pickers says you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. Says change your strategy and watch the results change. I don't know if you mean on YouTube or on eBay, but yeah, the idea is if you keep doing the same thing again and again and again, you're going to get the same type of results. I had a quick question for you, Ryan. What is your minimum threshold for you to list an item on eBay? Like for me, I don't want to waste my time listing an item on eBay unless I can sell it for at least $10 and the customer pays shipping. What's like your minimum threshold of items that you're looking to sell for on eBay? Is it $10, $15, $20? Like what's your minimum threshold that you look at?
Generally speaking, it's $10 free shipping for media stuff that I own for, 3.5 to 50 cents. So at that price, even with free shipping, I can make a couple of bucks on it. And I've got the stuff here and I've got the time. So it's not a big deal. Much less than that, it's not worthwhile. So kind of the $10 number, obviously the higher the better. And I'll do a lot of stuff. Like if I've got some books that are $6 free shipping, when you look at the comps, I may take 2 of those, 2 business books, 2 science books, 2 Isaac Asimov science fiction, whatever it is, and lot them up together and throw it up there for $12 or $14 or best offer with free shipping and try to move some stuff that way. So that's another strategy that I use to kind of get rid of some of this less desirable stuff. And it gets me to my threshold and allows me to generate quite a bit of business. I do tons of, like 2 and 3 book lots for $13, $15 that end up, because I own the stuff for 50 cents, being reasonably profitable sales.
Right. All right, awesome. Well, Ryan, we've been hanging out talking for about an hour today, man. Tell everybody where they can find you at on Instagram and YouTube so they can go by and check you out.
Yep. So on Instagram, it's just Galaxy CDs Rocks. I generally post there at least once a day in the morning. I do some hokey little motivational thing. So if you're the kind of person that needs a little something extra with your coffee in the morning, sign up, follow me on Instagram, and I'll give you a little motivational quote every morning. On YouTube and in podcast land, it's Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips. If you just search for that, that's where you'll find me on YouTube, and virtually any podcast platform you would happen to listen on, it's probably on there. I do episodes generally at least twice a week, one that goes live at noon on Sunday and another one that goes at 9 a.m. on Wednesday. So there'll be another video tomorrow morning.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, I'm a subscriber of Ryan, so if you get a chance, go by and check his channel out and stop by and say hello. Tell him Jeff sent you. All right, guys. Well, you guys have a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me, Ryan. I could probably talk with you for another hour, but we both got stuff to do today. So, but I appreciate it. It was a good time hanging out with you today, man. Though I appreciate you hanging out with me.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks, Ryan. You guys have a great day in the chat. Thanks for our guest, Ryan from Galaxy CD Rocks, for coming on with you.